Hello, Dr. Christle Guevarra. How lucky am I that you came back?
Oh, shucks. I'm always here. I'm always open for an awesome chat and to talk about ideas, and it's always a great time. So thank you so much for having me back.
Thank you so much. I want us to jump right in because you just released an ebook.
Yeah. It was supposed to be just sort of a small guide, and then it sort of evolved into 130 pages. Not all text. I am not I am one who I really enjoyed math classes in college just because I was not much of a huge like if I read just a block of text, I will start to fall asleep. So
Hmm.
it is not like there's a lot of graphics, there's, a lot of visuals in there, like the text is broken up, like there's little lists. So yeah, please don't, you say 130 pages and people are like, oh my gosh. And there's sections that you can jump to. There's a page where it's like, if you just want to learn about this, jump to this section. So want to just preface it by saying it's not like as overwhelming as it sounds off the bat.
Okay. Well, I you've been on the show and you talk about GLP-1 and we've actually really dove into it in our previous conversation. But if you could just maybe give me a little bit of an intro to the book. Don't give it all
Ah,
away, just a
yeah.
little intro.
Welcome to Bodyholic with Dee. We don't do fads here. We give you the facts that move your body and health forward. Wait up, hold up. I'm not a doctor. The information in this podcast is for informational purposes only and not medical advice. So kick back and enjoy the show.
Yeah. So it really just goes through a very basic overview of the kind of lifestyle that pairs very well for somebody who is taking these medications, with when it comes to thinking about calories, when it comes to thinking about macronutrients, when it comes to thinking about strength training, which is super important. The Despite that, you can still pick this up regardless of whether or not you are on a GLP-1 because it nails all the basics. Making sure you get your protein in, making sure you get your fiber in, making sure you stay hydrated, making sure that resistance training is an important part of the process that isn't eliminated. And that's not to say that you can't do cardio, that's not to say you can't become a runner. But I also know that practically speaking, particularly women in ages 30 to 50, middle aged, you've got stuff going on. Your moms, your wives, you have careers. So I always keep that in the forefront of my messaging. So I just don't want, people are like, well, I'm a runner. And, yes, that is all important. But I am also talking about people who, practically speaking, have a hard time getting to the gym or picking up a weight because of time issues, or they, have a lot of stuff going on at home. So rank priority, making sure if I had to pick something to do in the gym, making sure you lift the heavy weights would be number one for women, in my opinion.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Um, and I want to zoom into the GLP-1
Hmm.
specifically, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, if well, actually, sort of. If GLP-1 medications were to completely disappear off the face
Hmm.
of the earth tomorrow, um, what would you feel is the most important habit that is actually will determine the long-term success of whatever you reached with the GLP-1 right now?
Oh, and I mean, I can easily say that because I spent I would say, what is it, 10 years, 10 to 12 years doing all the things before the GLP-1 medication kind of showed up. I decided to go for it, is resistance training.
Mm-hmm.
I think all those times building that muscle, making sure my tendons and my bones were strong so that by the time achieving a calorie deficit and being able to maintain a lower body weight was entirely possible. I had the foundation of muscle. Otherwise, and I've done this before where I have dieted down. I didn't do resistance training. I did a whole bunch of cardio
Mm.
because of reasons. And I think I mentioned this. Every chapter has a snippet of my like little bits of my life, like things I screwed up on or things that happened. And I distinctly remember in the early 2000s doing this where I was on a commercial weight loss program. I I understood the concept of calories, but not macronutrients. I didn't eat a balanced plate and I did a lot of cardio. And I remember getting sick all the time. I remember feeling very fatigued and burnt out. And my physique looked like a soft bag of,
Oh,
and just like, I just felt very like no muscle tone whatsoever. I felt softer than I did than when I started and just smaller. And I was like, what? What is
hmm.
this? And then after the third like head cold, I just decided to say, forget it. Like, this is not worth it. Maybe being skinny is not in the cards for me. Stop doing what I was doing. My calories went up, my weight went back up, all of that. But the cold went away. So I was like, okay, well,
Right, right. But also, I have to say this, the thought of skinny, um, is like I find it a little like
yeah,
I don't aim to be skinny.
right.
And you know what? If you're super skinny, it's all, I mean, maybe that's just the way you are, which is
Yeah.
great. But then I would actually say, please, my dear super skinny friend, hit the gym and lift the
Yes.
weights and make sure that your super skinny frame has, you know, is being held properly.
Yes. And I've seen that where I do follow certain Instagram accounts where these women are, print models or runway models, or even one Miss Universe that I do follow. And I see them lifting the weights. And I think that's really awesome because you have to still build that strength. And what that strength is going to look like is going to be different for somebody who is naturally skinny compared to, somebody who does have a thicker frame like myself. And it's all good. I do
Right.
remember in the 90s, though, I wanted the muscles and I wanted the lean frame, but the only time I ever saw women gaining weight, lifting heavy weights, was a skinny person building muscle and then, having like this sort of shape that I thought like, oh, that looks really cool to have the muscles. And then when it came to people who lost weight, it was like, I just lose the weight first and then I'm going to build the muscle later. And
Mm,
I just the concept. So I took that to the extreme, and that's why I did all that cardio because I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna get to this size first, and then I'm gonna raise my calories and figure out how to build the muscle later. But I never got to a lean enough state because I didn't realize I had to preserve whatever muscle I had, at
right.
my starting size. So
But I don't think it was because um you in generally like you specifically were misinformed. I actually think looking back 20 years, I think we were all kind of misinformed, and that was really uh also, you know, the major cutting phases and then the bulking phases, and being so extreme with it, and women were just like, yeah, I'm gonna cut. I'm gonna
yeah,
cut. Um the public conversation around GLP-1 is so fascinating to me because it's polarized like crazy. I feel like the last time you and I spoke,
oh my
it
gosh,
wasn't as polarized actually.
really,
I
really,
it's the last time we spoke, I was getting, you know, like mixed messages from people.
yeah.
And but now there's a lot of bad press all of a sudden. And I want to talk about how oversimplified the GLP-1 conversation is, and do you find it misleading? And just tell me about that.
Man, I guess I would say that for myself, I do try to keep tabs on the news as far as GLP-1s. As far as TikTok goes, I actually don't have a TikTok account, which is good and bad. And then for Instagram, I purposely tailor my algorithm such that I try and stay away from the rage bait, green screen commentary, just because And there's only so much I can and handle for my own personal sake. Somebody had asked me the other day of what do you think about celebrities who may or may not be on a GLP-1, who are seemingly much thinner. And to that, I say, I don't really have much to say about these celebrities because I don't know them. I don't know their medical history. I don't like, unless I have a personal interaction with them, I do not believe anything that anybody else writes about them. But also, I have the confidence now, and when I work with women, I help them build the confidence such that they can just look at what somebody else is doing and move about their day like I think, or at least for myself, that's where I enjoy spending my time and energy is to building people up and not having to tear people down or play the comparison game or put these, other people in a position of like, you are here in this position, like you have to be an advocate or not every celebrity wants to be put in that position. Like they're there to go do their job, sing their song or act their movie. And I think it's unfair to automatically put those, labels on them
Hmm.
or requirements on them that they never asked for.
Correct. Yes, absolutely. So your ebook,
Yeah.
yes, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, 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 no.
Oh, your ebook is actually it's a GLP-1 guide for beginners, but it's also um, how to think about nutrition and training while on the medication, but anyone who's
Yeah.
starting out.
Yeah.
That's so I think that's really important too. Yes, you definitely have a strong voice in the GLP-1 conversation, but
Yeah.
also you're not only talking to the people who are taking the medications, you're
Yeah.
actually talking to people who are starting out.
Yes. Yes.
And so you were mentioning the fact that there is the prioritization.
Hmm.
Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to basically make sure that you get the strength training in? What else is, um, I know we don't want to have a spoiler, but like, what else would you say is one big tip for people who are starting out, whether they're on the medication or not, other than the strength training?
Oh, I mean, you can, yeah, this is all free too. So
Right, right, right.
we can go, the other things as far as training goes, why it's important to repeat the same exercises over, a period of weeks at a time and not necessarily having a different workout every time you go to the gym. That way you can actually progress. And with the progression comes the adaptations that your muscle, it's going to send that signal to your muscles, hey, like we still need to be here, even though you may or may not be in a calorie deficit. So, like, don't get rid of us, is basically what we're trying to say. And then also, kind of, what a sample 2 to 3, times per week, like doing just something very simple, a full body, something for your upper body, something for your lower body, where you could maybe find some helpful tips on like what exercise form looks like, if you need to hire a personal trainer. But I would say just it's gonna look boring. You're gonna have to the progressive overload. You're gonna have to challenge yourself. What effective reps would look like, and not necessarily like what the RPE RIR scale would look like. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna actually have to start paying attention. So like if you get to the end of a set and you're like, I could do another 10 to 20 reps, that weight is way too light.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like using, your whole body to swing things around, and that usually doesn't happen. I usually see that more often with male counterparts, no
Yeah.
offense. Maybe the weight's a little too heavy, you got to put it down. But if you're just like, okay, the 10th rep comes around, like I have to actually pay attention, like I can't scroll on my phone and hold a dumbbell at the same time, I would say you're probably doing good. So, and just putting a lot less emphasis on like this hyper optimization of like, oh my gosh, if I don't get to 2 RIR on this set, it's over. It's, the watching the the kind of science wars, the studies
Yes,
online,
right,
is just for the last decade. I'm just like, this has never been my thing, because how is that going to help me with the person I'm talking to right now who's afraid to go to the gym, isn't sure what to do? How am I going to get them to buy in to doing this consistently? And this like randomized control trial study is not like going to help it. In fact, it's probably going to drive her away from lifting
right.
forever.
Thank you so much for saying that. Thank you so much for saying that. We need to, like, as you know, you're a doctor, you're a physician. I'm a trainer. I have a team that works with me,
Yeah.
and a lot of the people who work for me are actually 40 plus. But
Yeah.
I have this adorable 23-year-old who I just believe in her. I just think
Yeah.
she's a rock star. I know it's going
Yeah.
to be good. But I often say, like in our meetings, I'm like, look at the person in front of you. Just
Mm-hmm.
look at listen, really listen. Don't
Yeah.
talk about the latest study that just came out that was posted on the Schroeder.
No. No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, I'm curious. Should training volume and intensity change with the change in appetite that comes with the GLP-1? Like, or really, are you just saying just listen to your body, or should there be a change when you start with the GLP-1?
So that is that I think that is kind of the main difference between being on a GLP-1 and not, is that now that you're removing that food noise aspect and the hunger comes down to, from an 11 to what, a 3 or a 4, and sometimes they overshoot it and people's appetites disappear completely. So now the frame that it starts to shift, right? You've gone from being having to battle your biology your entire life to having that noise completely shut off, and now you're left with silence. And now you have to be very intentional about your nutrition. It doesn't become just a I eat whenever I'm hungry, because now that signal has been blunted. We totally, yes, you're going to have some hunger, but it fluctuates. There are people when they first start out, it's like, I can't eat anything. I'm struggling. I'm going to, have to resort to shakes. I'm going to have to resort to kind of higher density foods like nuts to like get some calories in, because it's 5 p.m. and I have a headache, but I'm not hungry and I feel kind of nauseous. So
Wow.
you really, and that's all part of the process, right? Like, especially if you have a very good team of people that are kind of helping you with this and kind of walking you along the way. But that's the big main thing that you have to keep in mind when you're on these medications, that your goal with nutrition has to be a lot more intentional than if you weren't on it. Because before, we had these hunger cues that, were, and these signals that for people who are on these, need these medications,
Hmm.
are very hyperactive. The, hedonic eating, the pleasure seeking reward that we get from food, is just very much higher than somebody who, may have not ever struggled with weight in their entire lives. They're just like, I just eat less, and then weight just naturally drops. So
That brings me to another. So, what signs tell you that a patient is actually doing too much or going too far? Like the scale is moving in the right direction, and the person is probably taking GLP-1 to lose weight. So, I want to understand, like, where is the we need to put a break on this or something along those lines.
yeah, the when I check in, when I do check-ins, I'm really making sure I ask the question, are you finishing your meals? And like, I will have a plan, like looking at the nutrition plan, looking at kind of the things that they're eating. And yeah, out of how many meals, per day, because we actually go over like what kinds of stuff are you making? Like what are you making in the kitchen for the week? How are you setting yourself up for success? And how many of those meals are you not finishing at all? And I don't mean like, you have a meal and then you eat it later on in the day. That's totally kosher. But there are some times where people will not, finish the meal and then, have to throw it away because it's the next day or something like that. And so then we start talking about like, is it appropriate to decrease the dose, or are you feeling nauseous? Are you just not hungry at all? What is going on in your life? Or is your job just super busy that you can't, get to it? Because especially in healthcare where you aren't supposed to eat at your desk, but we do it anyway.
I'm sure. Like,
Right?
I feel like so many people in healthcare don't actually get up from their desk enough. But yeah,
Yeah. So what is actually going on? Because it's not always just a hunger issue. There's like so many other things that are going on. And the so that's when, and then when you take a look at how your lift's going in the gym, I think, your gym performance is also a big thing. Taking a look at sleep and your stress levels. I very much remember when I had overreached myself, very early on from dieting, and like my sleep started, like when you wake up in the morning and you've got like your heart racing, you feel this adrenaline rush. And I thought this was the most amazing thing ever because I'm type A. And my lifts were totally in the gutter. And my coach was like, you need to back off. We're going to
mm,
take a deload. I want you to just relax for this entire week, no gym, and then we'll reassess. So,
wow.
motivation to train in the gym performance, all of that matters. And so, if those are in the tank, sleep is terrible, stress levels, I am anxious and all over the place. I'm not eating meals. Also, looking at the weight because sometimes there can be shifts, but I don't put much stock into. I put more stock into weight trends over 2 to 3 weeks than any type of, like day to day or even a within a week. So those would be the types of things where I'd be like, let's double check to see like what's going on.
Mhm.
But I'm always checking in to see what's going on in your world, in your gym, in your kitchen, in your home, your family life. And that doesn't have to always be like you can get that done in a 15-minute like check in.
Like with your cell phone, like with
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
Um, so I, you're triggering all these questions because it's just amazing. The calorie, like, would calorie tracking be part of the protocol, or is that something actually that could backfire?
I think it depends. It can very well be, and I think it it makes things easier. But for some people, it might not be all that simple. And depending on where they're starting, because if they're starting off with a whole lot of processed foods, a whole lot of takeout, you can really get a whole lot of stuff done with just trying to get them to cook food and getting less takeout.
Yes,
So, and there's a lot, and there's a lot. I know that we're online, and that seems like there's a lot of people online in the fitness space, but that is still a very, very small percentage of the total population. So there are plenty of people who get takeout for every meal.
right.
And yeah, so it really depends on the situation. It really depends on where people are at. And you got to find out where their starting point is and go from there. So for somebody who has no idea what a macro is, no idea what a calorie is, they're getting takeout all for every single meal, probably not want to overwhelm them and start off with macro tracking and all of that stuff. Let's just pause and let's see how we can get you in the kitchen a little bit more often.
So it's going down to basically adequate, almost learning what adequate nourishment is.
Yeah.
And um and we're no longer looking at appetite. It's just really like how do we give the body what it needs? What does it look like? And then take it from there.
Yeah.
Um I'm super curious what
Yeah.
happens when a person stops the medication.
Yeah.
All the people I've spoken to are actually starting or on the medication.
Mm-hmm.
I never actually really got into what happens when the person stops.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so your book is actually more for the starting out, but what happens after that?
Yeah, if the you're removing that food noise and it makes it that much easier to one, achieve a calorie deficit, and two, to maintain, your maintenance calories at a smaller body size is going to be lower than where you're starting from currently. So, the hunger is going, sometimes, most often comes back. And
Okay.
according to the literature, majority of the people gain majority of the weight back over a very slow period. It's not immediate, but that actually makes sense with biology. So that's to say that the person in front of you is not necessarily doomed for failure. That is not a failure on their part. I have seen people who have started the medication, stopped it, and still continued to maintain themselves and their progress and moved on. So it is not going to be the end of the world. It might be a little bit harder as far as the nutrition part goes, because you have food noise back. Your hunger is a little bit much higher levels than when you were on, compared to when you were on the medication. But if you still continue the resistance training, if you still, are paying attention to your body weight at, certain intervals, like you check in on a regular basis,
Hmm.
excuse me, and continue to fill your body with fiber, with protein, the likelihood that you will gain the weight back is a lot lower than if you just decided to, screw it. Like, I'm hungry. I'm going to just go
Hmm.
back to the old way I was eating. So you're going to do much better if you continue on those behavior habits that you were doing when you were on the medication. But however, I've seen some people who are on these medications not do the behave, like the lifestyle stuff.
Hmm.
And yeah, you have a much higher chance of gaining the weight back and then some if you just, don't focus on that. So it's
Right.
all part of the process. You have to, you still have to go to the gym. You still have to lift the weights. So taking this medication is not a easy way out. You still have to do the work.
That is absolutely, I think, the take-home message. It's using the time on the medication. Whether you're maybe you're not planning on going off the medication, but
Yeah.
definitely this is the time to shine a light on habits
Yeah.
and really changing your lifestyle and actually putting your health first, which is such a gift.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to link your book if that's
Yeah.
okay with you.
Of course. I would love to.
And I think it's really important. I think that's a gift. So, hey, everybody, please check it out because it's so worth it, whether you're on the GLP-1 or not.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all your
Oh,
insight and your generosity. Thank you.
oh, you're so welcome. Yeah. And thank you for just being in the fitness space and giving people the tools to actually be able to thrive. I've been so blessed with being in this space and I feel like 2026, I'm excited to really bridge that gap between the fitness space and the medical community. I feel like you guys do such an amazing job of the lifestyle aspect of it and the training and the nutrition that I have gotten most like all this ebook stuff. I mean, hats off to like this is all stuff I picked up from, being in this space while in medical training, doing the thing. And I just feel like, okay, I really just want to lift weights right now. Like it was just a really good place to,
I
you
love
know,
it.
yeah. And I think more physicians, yes, there's plenty of experts who, are really knowledgeable on medications and how, and like the side effects and managing that. But remember that like this whole lifestyle part is also just important. And we need to like find a way to get together and combine forces so we can all get patients to where they need to go. Heard so many stories from people who've downloaded this book about what their experience has been, what their support system has been like. And it just really makes me sad and just, but also excited because now
Exactly.
it's an opportunity. It's a huge
Yes.
opportunity to like, here it is. Let's
Yes.
get to it.
Oh my God, I've got the chills because yes, that's like my agenda. That is
Yeah.
my agenda. Guys, follow Dr. Christle Guevarra. She knows I did actually confess I am her like number one stalker.
Oh
She's
gosh.
amazing. She's smart. She's wise. And it's definitely that beautiful intersection between medicine and fitness and lifestyle. So bravo. Yes,
Oh.
yes, yes.